Alrighty, well, we've had a bit of a eventful last 24 hours. Actually, it's been the eventful last 3-4 days, to be quite honest. An auntie of mine has sort of died. Well, she did die in the early hours of this morning. And you're basically getting this a day after it happened, most likely. Long and short of it is that, this auntie went in with a suspected heart attack, and they found she had lung problems related to smoking and then complications on that as well. And this suspected heart attack a couple of days later in hospital turned to a second actual heart attack, and she's sort of gone downhill from there. And long story short, she passed away early hours of this morning, and I'm going to be a pallbearer for the third time, it seems. At least the third time. And, that's going to be this Friday. She'll be buried, so anyway, these sort of events get you to thinking, and I'm, as you all know, someone who does a lot of thinking. I've seen my grandparents' generation all die. Last one died, 6 months ago or something? Something like that. Maybe 7 or 8 months ago. And, I lost my uncle a few years back now, back in 2010. It's one side of the family, and now it seems we've lost someone on the other side of the family. And this is, this is my parents' generation. And I dare say it within, the next 10 years, I'm pretty certain there'd probably be another one go as well. And these sort of things, they get you to thinking and get you to realising a few things. When I was 26, or slightly before I was 26, I realised my parents weren't going to last forever, and I started preparing for it by my first move. And my first move was 2 weeks before turning 26. I signed off on my first property. And I was thinking to myself, I can remember 20 years ago. I can remember 1998, 99, like it was 2 or 3 years back, and it was 20 years back. And I got to realising that my parents' generation, they're getting old, and in 20 years' time, they're all going to be in the nursing home. It's as simple as that. And the fact is that in 20 years from now, it's easy enough to remember 20 years back. Well, just think 20 years forward. I'm going to be 57, and there ain't going to be nobody to fall back on. I will be the first, last, and only defence against the worst scum in the universe, as Men in Black would say. The buck will stop with me and my generation. We will have to have the answers, work everything out, and, be the providers and be the one that the responsibility lays with and the buck stops with, and in 20 years' time, my parents will probably be in a nursing home and my mum will be sitting there spilling blooming mashed potato down her shirt and my dad will be there trying to, fight the controls of the air conditioning or something most likely. Let's face it, some of those types of things are already happening with him. It's only going to get worse over 20 years trying to get all these things to function and reading manuals and pressing buttons and, this is the thing, like in 20 years' time, they're going to be in the nursing home. Hell, half of my uncles and aunts won't even exist in 20 years' time. Quite possibly. I'm not saying guaranteed, but, there's a chance that that'll be the case. And it'll definitely be the case in 30 years' time. When I'm 57, the way it's all going, I don't know what the retiring age will be, but if things stay as they are, when I'm 57, it'll be 10 years more and I'll be retired. And this is the thing, like, I can remember 20 years back and 20 years from now, I'm going to be it. I'm going to have all the answers. I'm going to have to take all the responsibility. I'm going to be looking after my parents and probably the generation below me. And I'm starting to look around at a few people. There's at least two in my family, in my generation that I know of. They really they haven't got themselves sorted. They're in their 40s. They haven't started paying off a mortgage. They're probably stuck in the rent trap for their life now. And they've got no savings. There's another one I know of. Okay, admittedly, she's in her 20s, but I don't think she's ever actually held down a full-time 40-hour-a-week job. Like, it's always been like 25 hours a week or something like this, 20 hours a week. It's just like, what? I really think, like, one piece of advice I could give you all, if you don't have stuff underway by your late 30s even, and especially by your 40s, you miss the boat. In 20 years' time, your parents aren't going to be there to look after you. And if you are in your mid to late 40s, in 10 years' time, your parents ain't going to be there to look after you. Hell, they may even be dead. This is the thing. I see these people, like, in their 40s and that, and it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you've got 20 years before the buck stops with you, and you've got to have the responsibility for everything. You've probably got to have excess cash on hand to deal with other... And where are we at? We're still fucking frolicking around. You cannot afford to frolic around in your 40s, and dare I say, probably even your late 30s. If there's one piece of advice I could give any of you watching, start to get your shit sorted between your mid-20s and your late 20s. Because if you're still playing around like an idiot in your 40s, you're done. You're finished. You won't be prepared enough to handle being the matriarch or the patriarch who's got to look after the old fogies and pay the nursing home bills and look after the younger generation. You've got to be it. You've got to be the first and last line of defence, and you've got to do it, It's just the way it is. And we all know of someone else who's, what is he, 47 or something? And... it seems as though he started a family and all that turned to crap because, dare I say it, I don't think he's going to take responsibility. This guy's 47 and he's still not picking up the pieces. He's not taking the responsibility. He's not out there earning the cash, making it happen to hold the ship, to hold the show together, to keep the show on the road, to keep the ship on course. Oh, Mama, bail me out. Mama, bail me out. Fuck me, his mum's going to be probably dead in 5 years. Maybe 10 years. Yeah, but she might last 10 years. She ain't going to work for any more than another year or two, if she's even still working now. She'll be finished in 10 years, guaranteed. She'll be nursing home probably in 5 years. Mum's always bailed him out. Years. Mum's always bailed. He's cruising up to age 50, and he's already flat on his face because he couldn't flaming support that family. And what's he going to be when Mum's gone? What's he going to be when Mum's in the nursing home? Even flatter on his face, But it's not just him. It's people I'm seeing inside my own family. There's other people I hear about, friends of family, family of workmates, and it's just like, fuck me, like, you've just got to get the bull by the horns, preferably by your friggin' mid to late 20s. Because you got all this stuff out there where it's bullshit, They're just living in dreamland. And there's this forever young type mentality, You got to get your shit on the road. You got to get yourself a house or something sorted. Even if you start paying off a block of land and you only just got some block of land in friggin' White Trashville or whatever, and you're paying it off, You think about these things. You got to think about retirement. You got to think about, maybe even investments. Because one day you're going to be an old fart too. And the sooner you realise you're going to be an old fart, but most importantly, the sooner you realise you've got to look after yourself, the better. Now, I'm not saying you've got to be, 18 years old and you've got to know your whole life mapped out, because that's all bullshit. I know of a guy who I went to school with, actually, who lives locally, who reckoned he had all his life all mapped out and all this bullshit, and fuck me, did it, it was like a one-trick pony. It was like he had one option and that was it, And that one option failed him. He's just like, he's fucked. He didn't know what to do. What he basically was, his old man was in the Air Force. Now, he had it worked out. He wanted to go in the Air Force or the Army, right? I'm going to the Army. And this guy's chanted on with this shit probably since he's fucking 12 years old or something ridiculous like that, One of these ones, I'm going to do what Dad does. And he's got this shit in his head, right? So he knows what he's going to be, except, the armed forces didn't want him. So he went out and, what's the best thing to do? You need leadership, because you're going to be up high in the ranks. You're going to work your way up to friggin' Lieutenant Whoopie-Doo or something, Lieutenant Colonel whatever, So I'll do scouts, and that'll teach me. So he done scouts. Well, he finally gets to go in there, and they say, what sports do you do? Well, don't do any sports. No football? Oh, no, hell no. Well, what, cricket even? No. Golf? Nah. Nothing. So what have you got? I was in the Scouts, and I was proud to say I spent years in Scouts and worked with... Well, that's no good to us. We're after people who are physically fit. And in sports, and, they can work as a team, and they are extremely fit, and we want, and I tried to get in the Air Force at one point, and they make you run, flat out for like a quarter mile, and then, like, you got to run a total of a mile in less than 10 minutes or something like this, and it's a fair go, and, well, what do you think this short, fat guy could do? Do you think he'd even been training jogging? Oh, hell no. I'm pretty certain he didn't even train jogging. I mean, it's right there on the blasted internet with the recommendations. of what they're looking for and what the tests entail. Well, they said you're too heavy, you know, your body mass index is too high, you're too short and you're too fat, basically. And that was it. And he was fucked. And, you know, his parents are stunned. And he's like, oh, but I was going to be in the Air Force. And it's just like, oh, fuck me. So he flailed around not knowing what to do because it's like he had that one option and then he, you know, and he was fucked. And so basically then he decided, well, I've got to get in the police force. Now, I'd be surprised if he even got in for the exact same bloody reason. Or maybe I could be a prison guard. Oh, he fucking hell. Yeah, and then you can watch all the prisoners beat your ass up on fucking security camera. Great. Go, oh, blimey. You know, you just sit there going, this guy had one thing that he's got to be. He had it all worked out, and guess what? He never passed the body mass index of anything because he's short and fat. And so therefore, bang, you've excluded yourself from just about everything that you could possibly need, you know, to be in Air Force, Army, friggin', I think he went for the Air Force first. That buggered up. He tried to get to the Army, and they just said, well, you're not going to pass the physical because it's even harder in the Army. And, you know, then, oh, going to be cop, oh, maybe prisoner, oh, fuck, mate. Just give it up, dude, you know? He only set himself that one goal. So don't get in that trap. That's bullshit. But what I will say is make a go of making a go, and you'll get somewhere. And just start planning to do something in regards to land ownership, house ownership at a younger age. You know, you don't have to have the fucking Manhattan apartment, blah, blah, blah. But just get something started. Mightn't be mightn't be absolute perfect, but just something. Investment's not a stupid idea either, you know. You know, just think about these things. Have a go at trying to achieve a few things, whether it's a blasted CDL license, truck license, crane license, forklift. Just get and don't just go out and get a bunch of licenses because it's bullshit. You need experience, even if you're going to suck ass for a while. You know, I went to an apprenticeship. I was supposed to learn spray painting, and they didn't want to teach me it. No. The actual spray painters can spray paint faster than you. I must admit I did do a bit of sandblasting. I do know how to do sandblasting. That's a trick that, you know, using the big gear, most people don't know what they're friggin' looking at. I do. You know. And having said that, I can now spray paint quite well as well. But I didn't learn that in the apprenticeship that I was supposed to learn it in. Having said that, though, I got a lot of time on a forklift and on 5-ton cranes. And, yeah, guess what I'm doing these days? On a forklift, yeah. A lot of the time. Loading trucks, as I used to also, except instead of loading it mainly with cranes, we're loading it mainly with forklifts. Well, it's entirely with forklifts where I am now. But this is the thing, you know, the more you frolic around, the more closer you get into that day when you're going to hold the can for everyone else. And Mama ain't going to be there to pick up the shit for you. So anyway, just a bit of advice, you know. I sort of get these little wake-up calls when things like this happen. It's almost like getting hit in the face with a frying pan with these realisations, and I think, you know, I should voice this shit on YouTube. So here it is.